I've been in a big Pokemon mood as of late. Replaying some of the old DS games has got me thinking about these creatures and cryptids once again. I don't know about you, but when I play Pokemon, my team always consists of my favorite ones, whether that be due to strength, or design, or nostalgia, or whatever. And so that got me thinking, what is my absolute favorite Pokemon from each of the 9 current generations? I've never really thought about this before, so I thought it would be fun to make a video about it. So buckle up, because that's what's gonna happen now. Let's start things off in Kanto with Generation 1. The original 151 are some of the most beloved and well-known Pokemon of all time. There are a lot of great choices to pick from here. That being said, I realized I don't have any super strong attachment to any of these guys like most Pokemon fans do. I started out with Pokemon Heart Gold and moved on to Black and White, so my nostalgia bias for Gen 1 isn't really there. But there's still a lot of cool dudes here I enjoy seeing pop up. I've always got a kick out of Scyther, especially after using one in Legends Arceus. I also just love bug types in general for some reason. Almastar, Arcanine, and Jolteon are also a few other Kanto mons that I quite enjoy hanging around. But after combing through all 151 Kanto creatures, I find myself having the most attachment, nostalgia, and fondness to Weedle. Yeah, weird choice, I know. Again, I just like bug types, and I've always found Weedle to be so cute and silly, and his name is just fun to say. I know he's weak. I mean, I've really tried using his evolution Beedrill before, and he just gets outclassed fairly quickly, especially in older games where the fairy type doesn't exist for poison to trounce upon. At least they had a small shining moment with Mega Beedrill, but whatevs. My Kanto Medal of Honor goes to Weedle. Okay, remember how I said I got into Pokemon with Heart Gold? Keep that in mind, especially since now we're in Johto territory. Due to nostalgia, this is my favorite region/generation. There are a lot of Pokemon here that I either really like or consider some of my favorites. There's Wooper, Espeon, Feraligatr, Typhlosion, not you, Steelix, Crobat, Scizor, Tyranitar, Raikou, Heracross. Oh my god dude, I love Heracross. Again, bug types. However, my favorite Pokemon of all time is from this generation, and I think it's another weird one. Politoed. Dude, I love Politoed. Look at him, he's so cute, and frogs rule. Ever since I was a kid, the moment I first obtained a Politoed, I don't know, I fell in love or something. I had already quite enjoyed using Poliwag and Poliwhirl, but didn't care so much for Poliwrath. I wanted the tadpoles to evolve into a frog, not a bigger, meaner tadpole. I just think Politoed is so awesome. Lots of bias and nostalgia on this one. He's also not bad in battle, and gets access to Perish Song, which I think is a really funny, stupid, and interesting move. And in video games, I like those kind of funny and stupid things. Politoed is just my guy. Green is also my favorite color. Alright, enough about that crap. Let's move over into Generation 3. Hoenn is home to an absurd amount of all-stars and fan favorites. There are just so many good Pokemon to choose from here. But don't worry, I'm not going to have a bunch of build-up just to say that my favorite Gen 3 Pokemon is Rayquaza or Metagross or Flygon or Mudkip. No, I'm special. It's Breloom/Shroomish. Once again, ever since I was a kid, I have loved these guys, pretty equally at that. I think Shroomish is such a cute little mushroom guy, and then Breloom is a decently strong evolution that gains the fighting type, instead of something lame like Poison. I don't really like Poison that much. Breloom also has Technician as its hidden ability, which is just a really cool ability that lets more fun moves become viable by powering them up. All in all, these mushroom guys have just always been awesome to me, and they're also green. I think mushrooms are cool. Probably because of Mario. Breloom also hops around like a kangaroo, and that's just funny to me. Now to the generation where I technically started, Generation 4. I've never actually played through a Sinnoh game, besides Legends Arceus, which is something I plan to change soon, so please put down your pitchforks and torches. I just unfortunately missed out on Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum when they first released. Upon looking over the Gen 4 roster, there's a lot of Pokemon here that I really like, and also ones that I know other people really like too, but none really quite stick out to me as my definitive favorite. I don't have too much nostalgia bias on this one. Sinnoh's fun little thing was giving a bunch of new evolutions to old Pokemon that really needed them, and I pretty much love all of those new evolutions. A lot of awkward one-stage Pokemon finally became useful, in the sense that you could finally evolve them, or give them Eviolite if you hate fun. And because I just used one of those evolutions in a playthrough of Heart Gold, I'm giving my favorite Gen 4 Pokemon award to Ambipom. This Pokemon made me realize I've been sleeping on normal types all these years. First off, I just think Apom and Ambipom are fun little monkey Pokemon with nice, simple designs. I've always liked them with their happy smiles, purple fur, and hand tail things. What made me love Ambipom even more was really how awesome it is in battle using double hit with his ability Technician. Just like Breloom, wow. Seriously, it does a lot of damage, especially since I gave my guy Welvin a Silk Scarf to boost his normal type power even more. If I didn't have a good type matchup in a battle, Welvin was my answer. Ambipom really grew on me, and as of right now, is definitely my favorite Gen 4 Pokemon. Transition words, Unova, Generation 5. I have almost as much nostalgia for Black and White as I do for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so the Gen 5 Pokemon roster is one that is filled with a bunch of my favorites. Let me start off by saying, I don't get the hate for the elemental monkeys. They're not great, yeah, they're fine, I like them. No, don't worry, none of them are my Gen 5 pick. I just see no one defending them, so I thought I'd step in real quick. This is kinda another Johto situation where there are so many Pokemon here that I love, so narrowing it down to just one was quite tricky. Unova has a good amount of cool bugs. I really like Volcarona and Joltik and Sewaddle. I don't really care for Durant. I think I'm going to have to be a bit generic however and choose the backbone of my original team from Pokemon White. We're going with my starter, Serperior. I've mentioned my strange love for bug types, and the same thing kinda goes for grass types as well. They're not the strongest, but I like the underdogs, and the color green. It's also just kinda tradition for me to always choose the grass starter every generation. Serperior is just a cool ass grass snake that looks regal. He was always solid in battle and could take a hit if needed. I used a lot of other Pokemon like Zebstrika, Klinklang, Darmanitan, Zekrom, etc. and I love those guys too. Serperior is just the original homie that never left my side. Generation 6 is notable for introducing the smallest number of Pokemon thus far, which makes sense seeing how Game Freak had to make a 3D model of every existing Pokemon. This smaller roster should make picking a favorite easier, right? Well yeah, kinda. There's certainly still a lot of Pokemon here I'm very fond of. I will always love Aurorus due to its design, but god damn, Rock Ice is such a bad typing. The two Kalos Pokemon that I think about the most, however, are Chestnut and Yveltal, a starter and a legendary. How original, I know. For now, I'm leaning towards Yveltal. I just think he's such a cool legendary. You'd think a big ol' Y-shaped bird would be stupid and goofy, but it's not, and Yveltal would kill you if you said that. He's mean and fierce. His signature move, Oblivion Wing, was always my favorite to use in battle. It's just a giant death laser that also heals Yveltal a bit. I know choosing a legendary is a little lame and cliche even, but sorry. When I think of Gen 6, I think of Mega Evolution. And then after that, my old Yveltal from Pokemon Y. Chestnut is still cool too. Alola is here with Generation 7 in another lineup of a bunch of Pokemon that I really like. Crap! There are so many cool Gen 7 Pokemon, especially those with some really fun abilities. I've always loved Wishy-Washy and how it just transforms into a giant school fish monster. This thing has some pretty crazy stats. Alola also has a lot of mythical and legendary Pokemon I quite enjoy as well. I loved using my Tapu Koko in battle. I named him Cocoa Puffs, with a K. I gotta say, however, I really love what they did here with the usual crappy early game bug Pokemon, because it's not crappy. For me, that's why Vikavolt is my favorite Pokemon in Gen 7. I love how Grubbin evolves into a bug type that is actually strong, especially with that added electric typing. Doesn't hurt that Vikavolt has a wicked design as well, and it has a great ability too, that being Levitate to get rid of that ugly ground weakness. I've noticed that a lot of the worth I place in Pokemon has to do with their ability, which, I mean, yeah, is an important thing to factor in. I also think Vikavolt was the one that kinda set me on this path of loving to use bug-type Pokemon. It's just strong and cool looking. arguably the two most important things when choosing a Pokemon to add to your team. Time for some potentially controversial opinions. Sword and Shield are my least favorite games of the mainline series. I still enjoyed them though. I don't know, the Galar region just kinda sucks. The routes in this game are just straight lines and the wild area just doesn't make up for that. In addition, I think Generation 8 has my least favorite lineup of Pokemon as well. I'm not saying they all suck or anything, it's just that someone had to be at the bottom. So when choosing my favorite, it's pretty difficult because there's no one I straight up love. I liked using the Pokemon in my playthrough, like Rillaboom and Corviknight, but I don't know, there's other starters and birds I like better. Even though I didn't use it in my playthrough of Sword, there is one Pokemon I distinctly remember finding really neat and funny. That Pokemon was Applin. I just thought an apple Pokemon was really goofy and right up my alley. And then I learned it was part dragon? That's just kinda cool. I'm not as fond of Flapple or Appletun. They're just not really what I wanted out of an evolution, but I still like them. Surprisingly, the Scarlet and Violet DLC gave me the Applin evolution I always wanted with Hydrapple. Keeping the basic apple shape, but now just turning it into a big ol' Hydra. Way cooler than its original evolutions if you ask me. But anyhow, Gen 8 just doesn't have a whole lot of Pokemon that rank highly for me, and I just really like Applin's design. Also, I always forget the Hisuian evolutions are technically part of Gen 8. Maybe I like Weirder more, I don't know. Okay, it's time for Generation 9. In my humble opinion, once again, Paldea is a huge step up in terms of new Pokemon compared to Galar. I think all the recency bias has worn off by now, so I can judge these guys a bit more fairly. And this is another tough one. If you know me, you know that I love cats, so Sprigatito may seem like an obvious choice. I do like Sprigatito, a little basic, but its evolutions just weren't exactly what I was hoping for. I don't hate them, Meowscarada has grown on me quite a bit, but for the love of all that is holy, stop making every single starter Pokemon become some bipedal humanoid creature guy. Be more creative than that. I really wanted Sprigatito to turn into some kind of Sabertooth, or some other large feline predator. Maybe have it be a little sweeter and turn it into a fairy type. But nope! Have it stand on 2 legs and give it the dark type just like the last cat starter only 2 generations ago. I'm getting sidetracked here. I think Wo-Chien is such a funny name. Wooper has always been one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. So when I saw I was getting a Paldean form, I was so happy. Of course this little guy got a spot on my team. Poison Ground is a neat typing that hadn't been seen since Nidoking and Queen in Gen 1, which is weird to me. Anyway, I was also happy to see that this Wooper got a new evolution too. And surprise surprise, I'm putting that bad boy Clodsire as my favorite Gen 9 Pokemon. Design-wise, I prefer Clodsire over Quagsire. It just looks even more silly and goofy, in a good way. It also proved to be quite useful in my team, being quite bulky with its ability to hit back decently hard with Earthquake. And one of Clodsire's abilities is Water Absorb, turning one of its weaknesses into an immunity that heals it. That's awesome! If you haven't noticed, I am a big fan of the silly and funny looking Pokemon, as well as some in the menacing variety. Okay, wow. I think that is enough of me gushing over fictional creatures. Choosing just a singular Pokemon from each generation was a lot tougher than I initially thought. The Pokemon themselves are really the one thing that has consistently stayed high quality throughout all these years. I know I definitely have some weird and unpopular choices in this list, so feel free to share your personal choices in the comments below. I won't make fun of you. Promise. Maybe. To recap, starting from Gen 1, my favorite Pokemon from every generation were Weedle, Politoed, Breloom, Ambipom, Serperior, Yveltal, Vikavolt, Applin, and Clodsire. I'll need to find an excuse in the future to talk about my other favorites. Anyway, take care everybody, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later. Holy shit, Pokemon Z is real.